What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Drunk Turkey Show. I'm your host, Daniel J. Today, we're talking a couple of things. We're talking about the University of Idaho, them demolishing the 1122 King Road residence, and we're talking about Doordash. There's been a lot of speculation this weekend about is Bryan Kohberger the Doordash guy? Hit that like and subscribe button, ring that notification bell. That way, you're notified of all our segments that we thrown out there, and every time we go live. We go live tonight. We're going to be talking about Doordash, University of Idaho, but we're also going to be talking about the prosecution theory that we put out last week, and the defense theory that we put out yesterday morning. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend to go watch it after you've finish watching this one. I make it easy for you guys. I'm going to put it and link it in at the end of the video, so it'll pop up right here. And so check it out. Let's get into it. First and foremost, let's talk about the Doordash guy. Crime Circus, Drip Drop from Crime Circus came out with a video this past weekend talking about the possibility that Bryan Kohberger was the Doordash guy, and or if that the Doordash guy is not have been cleared yet. Now, a couple of things. First and foremost, I want to give my opinion on it. Bryan Kohberger is not the Doordash guy. I don't, in my opinion, I don't believe that he is. There's not enough evidence there to say that he is. It would have been in the probable cause affidavit. I know Lana from Truth and Transparency came out with a video. I saw part of it. I agree with a lot of what she was saying in the part of the video that I saw. I didn't want to get too much into it because I didn't want it to influence my thoughts on this. But it is out there. I'm fairly positive. She does a lot of great work, so it's probably fairly positive. It's along the similar lines. And as far as Drip Drop, I think he does fantastic work as well. It was a good pickup on his part. I just have a difference of opinion, but he does some great work, both of those guys. So let's get into it. First and foremost, the DoorDash guy, why I don't think that it's him is because it would be in the probable cause affidavit if it was Bryan Kohberger. Drip Drop brought up the Delphi case and Richard Allen and how he put himself there. Oh, that was in the probable cause affidavit. Now, if you look at the probable cause affidavit for Richard Allen and you look at the probable cause affidavit for Bryan Kohberger, you would expect, or you see that there's a lot more details in the Bryan Kohberger probable cause affidavit relative to the Richard Allen. And Richard Allen yet has that information in it, and this one doesn't. So that's one big red flag that this isn't in there in a detailed probable cause affidavit. This is why I tell a lot of folks out there that there's a lot of information in there that's probably there's more information than you should expect to see in a probable cause affidavit. That would include to me that that's probably a majority of the information they have. Now, is there something that the police department don't have? That the police department has that aren't being disclosed to us? Probably, most likely, especially the results of the vehicle, as far as Bryan Kohberger's vehicle. Was there any DNA found? Things like that. Anything leading up to the arrest, there wasn't. But up to that arresting point, I think that there's a lot of the information in that probable cause affidavit. It's not in there. Now, what is in there is that the DoorDash guy made contact with the police department. And so, had it been Bryan Kohberger that made contact with the police department and put himself at the scene of the crime, around the commission of the crime, that definitely would be in the probable cause affidavit. That would be a huge piece of evidence, a strong piece of evidence pointing in that direction, and would be almost a nail in the coffin for Bryan Kohberger. Obviously, he'd still have to go to trial. The second thing that everybody's kind of talking about is the fact that he hasn't been cleared yet. Well, to our knowledge, he hasn't. That doesn't mean that he hasn't been cleared to the knowledge of the police department and law enforcement, right? Now, why hasn't law enforcement come out publicly and said that they've cleared this man, right? Well, let's go back and think about the people that they were clearing and when they were clearing them, right? So that was prior to Bryan Kohberger's arrest. We didn't even find out about the DoorDash until the probable cause affidavit came out. So that was well after the arrest of Bryan Kohberger, right? So it was prior to his arrest. That's the first foremost thing. Second thing is, we didn't know about him, so there's no point in clearing somebody we didn't know. They were clearing was anybody with the name Jake or Jack, right? There was a lot of speculation whether it was Jack Showalter, Jack Decor, whoever, right? Everybody was getting a lot of speculation, and there was a lot of mistruths that were being put out there, right? And so the police department wanted to make sure that they didn't make victims out of anybody else. And so they put out a list of the people that were most suspicious that they felt weren't involved, right? That everybody knew about. Nobody knew about this guy. They haven't cleared anybody since arresting Bryan Kohberger. Like, for instance, I haven't seen anything on anywhere that says that Adam Lauda has been cleared. Now, I don't think that Adam Lauda and Bryan Kohberger conspired to commit this, and I don't think Adam Lauda is involved in this case. He hasn't gotten cleared, though. There's no document saying he's cleared. Doesn't mean anything, y'all. It just, you have to look at the timing, context, what was happening during the time of the clearing, and who was being cleared and why. This Doordash guy doesn't fall under that. Now, I would assume had we had knowledge of the Doordash guy ahead of time, ahead of the Bryan Kohberger arrest, let's say this guy came out on News Nation or something, then perhaps at that point we probably would have seen him cleared. But that didn't happen, and it came after the fact that there was an arrest, and the police are probably fairly confident that they got their guy. Now, but it's still good to look into. It's still good to look into, and it's still good to check that box off. But to me, I don't think so. Now, the other piece of news is going to be the University of Idaho is considering knocking down the 1122 King Road residence. The residence there at 1122 was donated to the University of Idaho. The University of Idaho wants to demolish it and possibly demolish it immediately before the trial. They're right now in the process of giving property back to the families. I find this very concerning because, one, you want everything to be relatively the same. That way, when the jury comes in and they walk the house or walk the scene, they get a really clear picture of what occurred there. It's very impactful. It's very powerful for the prosecution to do that. I find it very concerning that the University of Idaho is doing this, and there's been a lot of concerns and questions when it comes to the university there being especially the main financial driving support of the community. Right? Are they doing this because they're trying to heal? They're trying to move forward? Or is the University of Idaho doing this so that way they can have more students coming back? That way that house isn't up there being a constant reminder to potential students that are going to the university who maybe perhaps now are choosing other universities over the University of Idaho. Now, remember, this isn't the first time that they've done some questionable things. There was the fact that they didn't want to put out reward flyers throughout town, right? And as a constant reminder of the situation that had occurred. You look at the court system out there and how they're trying to just gag order everybody, including the family members of the victims. Now, is that because they're trying to protect the integrity of the trial, or is that possibly because the community is trying to put this on as far as the government and the community, the city, the university, all of those guys, are they trying to recuperate any monies they may have lost due to the fact that this incident had occurred? And a lot of students were probably choosing other universities than the University of Idaho or even Washington State University. And like I said, this ain't the first time there's been a lot of questions as to whether or not the university is doing something for the best interest for the case, trial, hearing people, or the best interest of themselves. Don't forget, 2011, there was a professor at the University of Idaho who took the life of a student that he was having an improper relationship with. But prior to that incident where that life was taken, that student and that student's friends reported reported information, including the possibility of an incident occurring with said professor that could end in the taking of lives, not just one, but lives. And the University of Idaho basically told that student and her friends to go contact the police, that they had a confidentiality agreement, and so they couldn't do anything about that situation. Go look it up if you don't believe me. I think that priority and there's just a lot of things that are messed up when it comes to where things should be lined up on that hierarchy of priority. I think the university is putting itself beyond the community, beyond the students that attend their college, and beyond, anything at this point. I find it disgusting, and I think that the University of Idaho maybe weren't the proper people to have donated that piece of property to. I understand the sentiment of making it into a memorial for the victims' families and for the city and for the community. but I think there's a timing for which that has to be done, right? And doing so immediately only, in my opinion, hinders this case. You know, I think it should be waited. Let me know in the comment section. Do you guys, what are your thoughts on the University of Idaho? What are your thoughts on the situation with them, you know, destroying it? Also, let me know on the Doordash. Do you guys think that the Doordash guy was involved? Do you guys think that Brian Laundrie, it's too early for me. Bryan Kohberger is the actor there when it comes to the Doordash. Do you think that those two guys are the same, Bryan Kohberger and the Doordash guy? Let me know in the comments section. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the family members. I, for one, don't think that the property should be destroyed until after the commencement of the trial, and once that's been over and done with, and we have a guilty verdict. Let's well, once the trial is over, let's just say he goes through it, and it, for whatever reason, he's mistrial or acquitted, whatever the case may be. At that point, I think it's a good opportunity to probably demolish the house. I'm not saying that you have to keep it preserved for the rest of, time, but there's an arrest already made. There's charges. Police seem confident that they got the guy that was responsible for this. Let's just wait a few months. Let's see what happens. He hasn't even pled yet. He hasn't pled even guilty or innocent at this point. So let's get through that part. Let's get through the preliminary hearing. Let's find out what evidence is out there. And then we can take that from that step forward. That's just my opinion, y'all. Don't forget, tonight we're going to be going on live at 7:35. We're going to be talking about Doordash, University of Idaho, the prosecution theory and the defense theory. So hit that like and subscribe and ring that notification bell. And also, right here, go back and watch the defense theory. We'll see you next week or tonight. Peace out.